Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the UPMC Rooney Sports Complex, south side of Pittsburgh. Bob Pompiani here, soon to be joined by Missy Matthews. And we welcome all our viewers on KDK Plus and all Steeler digital platforms from not only around the country, but around the world. Thank you for joining us today. The Steelers get set for a trip from Arizona here at Acrisure Stadium coming up on Sunday. It's the first of back-to-back home games. The Steelers coming off a big win against Cincinnati. They did it by going over 400 yards of offense. Still 16 points, but they got the job done. Their defense has been outstanding. Kenny Pickett had a tremendous day, especially on third down in that game. It was the first game with a new offensive coordinator situation with both Eddie Faulkner and Mike Sullivan calling the plays, and it seemed to work good. Those two were on top of it. The Steeler offense moved up and down the field. There were no 3 and outs, and the Steelers came away with a win to get them at 7-4 as they look to potentially challenge for an AFC North championship. The Ravens won this week. They get to 9-3. They have a bye week. Cleveland lost at Denver, so they are 7-4 also, but the Steelers have the tiebreaker, thus they jump ahead of them in the standings. It was a good day for the run game once again. The combination of Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris, especially Harris in this game. We had 100 yards, and then it went backwards by 1 yard because of a late game 1 yard loss. But, man, it was terrific. They dominated the line of scrimmage. Everything that the offense wanted to do pretty much in that game happened except for the number of points, but I think that will certainly come in time. There was a touchdown to Deontay Johnson, which was ruled incomplete, and that would have been another 7 points for the Steelers. They take on Arizona this week, a team that has struggled, no doubt, 2-10 on the season. But it's a return of James Conner, a Steeler running back here from several years ago. He was a third-round pick of the Steelers, and he continues to be very good in the red zone with over 500 yards rushing. And when he gets into the red zone, he is very good at getting in there with touchdowns. Kyler Murray is back, healthy, it seems, and getting back to his game. Last week we saw them rush for a touchdown using a design quarterback play, so Kyler Murray is somebody they have to certainly watch. As far as their defense is concerned, you have to always start with their safety tandem of Budda Baker and Jalen Thompson, two guys who are capable of making game-changing plays, especially Thompson, who leads them with 3 interceptions. Steelers trying to keep pace here with everyone in the AFC, and 7 wins out of the first 11 games is a good way to go. And now the schedule has some home games back-to-back with 2-10 Arizona, and then it's New England after that. And certainly the Patriots have struggled so far with 2 wins only and 9 losses in that game, and they're coming off a tough loss this past week. As far as the defense is concerned for the Steelers, Joey Porter Jr. continues to do extremely good things when he's out there covering some of the best receivers in the game. Last week it was Jamar Chase. This week it'll be Hollywood Brown. So a lot of good things happening with all these draft picks who the Steelers took in the class of 2023. Mike Tomlin is ready to address the media, so let's go to his press conference upstairs.
Good afternoon. Like always, I'll start with a quick synopsis of the last performance. And really, after reviewing the tape, it was a lot like I felt post-game. I thought the field positioning component of the game was really significant, and not in a positive way. We had 2 penalties in the punt return game. One of the punt returns went to midfield. I think that drive started around the 30. That field positioning component is big. We had a couple opportunities to down punts inside the 5-yard line or so. Those were touchbacks. They ran a kickoff back to midfield. I think that was their touchdown drive in the first half. And so the field positioning component did not work in our favor. It's something that we fight hard for. It's something that our special teams unit takes a great deal of pride in, but we didn't get the job done. And I thought that it affected the game. I thought that the score was what it was because of it. And so we got some work to do in that area. Offensively and defensively, I thought the texture of the game was playing behind the wave that our bigs provided. We were able to run the ball on offense. We were able to stop the run on defense, and that's done in the line of scrimmage. And we've been trending in that way for several weeks, and it needs to continue. When you get on the other side of the hump, man, you're on the second half of this thing, and you're dealing with the cumulative effects of play. All of us are. The big man component of play is something that we look to take control of. And so I thought we were able to do that. We were able to run the ball. We were able to stop the run. I thought time of possession reflected that. Obviously, you don't get to do those things unless you're converting some third downs and stopping some third downs, and that's probably the second most significant component of it. We were converting third downs, particularly in the second half offensively, and we did a really good job on possession downs, largely defensively. And so that was kind of the texture of the game. We made a few plays that we needed to make, and we were able to get out with the victory. Quickly, just looking at some health-related things. Got the light on for Minka and Mon Adams this week. Both guys will be participants on some level tomorrow, and then we'll let the amount of participation and the quality of that participation be our guide as we lean in toward the latter part of the week. But cautiously optimistic about both. Calvin Austin had an ankle injury in game, but 24, 48 hours later, it looks significantly better, and so we'll watch him, and he might be limited some at the early portions of the week. We'll let the quality of that and the amount of that participation be our guide in terms of his availability. And Kenny is experiencing some ankle discomfort that might limit him in some way at the early portions of the week. But other than that, man, we like where we are from a health standpoint. Natural bumps and bruises associated with play. Now turn our attention toward Arizona. Starting first with their defense. Been a challenging couple of days kind of looking at their defense. Man, they do a lot of things schematically. They throw a lot at you. Obviously, they probably do it out of necessity. Man, they've experienced some attrition in their unit. Isaiah Simmons, obviously they traded at the linebacker level. Kazir White is now on IR, and so they got new people in at linebacker. They got a limited number of linebackers. I think they're utilizing a five-man front to balance some of that out, which is smart ball. The five-man front is challenging. They do a plethora of things out of it. They do it in base. They do it in sub. We got to do a really good job of dealing with the number of people that they play along the line of scrimmage. It really minimizes your ability to double team and get movement. It's been an asset to them. You got to have versatile guys, man. They play a lot of people. Their edge group, I can't say enough about, man. They just a number of people, 25, 45, 18, 52, man. They play all of those guys. They all play a lot. They all play together at times in one-dimensional passing moments, creating some real challenges for you schematically because some are capable of dropping, and so they'll blitz little people. They'll drop bigger people and challenge you schematically in that way. But tying it all together is the safety tandem. Thompson and Buddha, they're dynamic. They are. Buddha's a sideline-to-sideline tackler. His motor is exceptional. It's not a one-year body of work. It's been a career. That's a body of work. Just got a lot of respect for him and the plays that he's able to get to, the spirit in which he plays, the plays that he makes. Equally as impressed with Thompson, although I'm not as familiar with Thompson. He's a ball guy. He's leading them in interceptions. But he's also versatile enough to spin down in the box, to blitz, to play at the linebacker level. As I mentioned again, he and Buddha, man, spin down and play a lot in the box and aid them in terms of minimizing the run because of some of their linebacker and personnel-related circumstances. Their versatility is an asset and a schematic challenge for us. Their pre-snap disguises are excellent. They move a lot of people around. Their ability to be versatile, coupled with their young rookie nickel from Syracuse, his ability to play safety and handle quarter concepts and half-field concepts, things that safeties do, really allow them to do some interchangeable part-like things that are really challenging to get a handle on, particularly if you're somewhat unfamiliar with them. And so we got our hands full from that perspective and dealing with some of those things. On the other side of the ball, we can't allow James Conner to do what James does. Know and love and got a lot of respect for James. He is a legitimate tough guy, a big-time competitor, and expecting nothing but his absolute best coming back into Pittsburgh because I know him. But aside from his will and intangible things, man, his skill set. When he gets into the secondary, he's tough to deal with. He's a combative runner. He has a nose for the line to gain and the goal line. He has his entire career. He's always been a touchdown scorer. Quarterback mobility is an issue regarding the run game as well. You look at the tape, you see quarterback mobility showing up, particularly in situational moments, possession downs, red zone. Doesn't appear that, Kyler coming back from injury has slowed any of that down. I think he had a design quarterback run for a touchdown just the other day. And so that has our attention, obviously. And then the plethora of talent that he has on the perimeter, the young talent. Hollywood, Brown, Moore, the young receiver from Stanford, Wilson, the young tight end. They're a really impressive group from a skill set perspective. They're one-on-one playmakers, particularly as it pertains to Moore. He has a unique skill set. I think he's got 23 carries on the season in a variety of ways, out of the backfield in the reverse game, jets and so forth. He's dynamic in that way. It reminds me a lot of Elijah from Cleveland in terms of the things that they're capable and willing to do with him in that regard. And so, that's an outline of some things that has our attention. But for us, it's about gaining the type of momentum we need to gain this time of year, getting a real high floor in terms of our performance and what we can expect from ourselves, obviously with the potential for big plays. And as I mentioned in the opening, the line of scrimmage component is a major component of it. Our bigs on both sides and riding the wave that they provide and making timely plays on the perimeter, possession down play. We just got to keep rocking and rolling and respecting the process that is preparation and keep our nose down, and that's what we intend to do. And so I'll pause and open it up for questions.
Mike, when you went back and looked at the film, did you like the way that Kenny both attacked downfield and the accuracy with which he did? I
did. I saw some things that were encouraging from that perspective. But I also think, Moof's presence and another complete week of work with him had a lot to do with it. Moof did an awesome job in the interior portions of the field, particularly versus zone. And Kenny has a lot of confidence in him and has had a lot of confidence in him. It's good to have him back.
Mike, how do you want to see the offense build on what they were able to do last week going
Just
forward?
more the same.
You've mentioned the light being on for Minka this week. You've had a lot of moving pieces on defense this year, but T.J. Watt's kind of been out there every game. Is he a stabilizing force on that defense?
Not only for the defense, but before our football team. There's just a lot to learn from him in terms of how he goes about his business, how he works to maximize his talent level, what he does, the level of production. I mean, let's be honest, like TJ is the best defensive player on the planet right now. And he proves that week in and week out with the plays that he delivers us. I get a bird's eye view of it. I see the lengths that people go through to minimize his impact on the game. I know the type of games that we've been in, close ball games, and how that at times minimizes a guy that plays his position's ability to impact the game. None of those things slow down the train that we all know is coming. And so we're just appreciative of it. Hopefully it's something that the young guys can learn from. And it's our job to continue to work to put him in position where his talents and his will and his preparedness shows.
Mike, you mentioned about stopping the run and running the ball. Is that the most important combination that you seek this time of year?
It's a component of it. Obviously, things get more complex on weighty downs and situational moments because of continuity gained and things of that nature. But the things that tee up the weighty downs, the non-situational moments, 1st and 10, 2nd and medium, the run game component of that. You're going to win more possession downs on defense if it's 3rd and long. You're going to win more possession downs on offense if it's 3rd and manageable. And therein lies the significance of the run game component in the line of scrimmages on both sides.
In your post-game comments, you made a quick reference to the launch points for Kenny Pickett. What did you want to address going into that game last week, and how'd you go about doing it to help the cause?
I just thought we were thoughtful and intentional about changing the launch point some. First and 10, P and 10. We started the second half with a screen, things of that nature. Just working to keep the defense off balance, stay a step ahead.
You mentioned Pat Fryermuth's impact, but you guys also used 3 tight ends on the field more than in the past. What did you see the biggest benefit to that 13 personnel group?
Well, we had them available to us. And so, when we got good players available to us, particularly, as you mentioned, the tight end component, a lot of that has to do with winning the line of scrimmage, as we've been talking a lot about, and creating that D and E gap, if you will, additional gaps that the defensive unit has to be responsible for. And so tight ends are a way of getting that done.
Mike, now that you had a chance to review it, how was communication with Mike and Eddie and Kenny, and how did that flow in that game?
I thought it was good. I think it's reasonable to expect it to continue to improve and to be better. Just another week under our belt and another normal week, if there's such a thing. Last week we had Thanksgiving and some of that stuff, and so I'm excited about it. I like where it is. We're going to continue to work to get better, not only in terms of how we communicate, but things that we do logistically leading up to performance, how we construct our day, how we present material, how we ready our group physically for the work. And particularly this time of year, you work to reduce some of your on-the-field snaps in an effort to preserve the group. But you got to be thoughtful about what you choose to physically rep and what you choose not to. And so we got some growth opportunities ahead of us on many fronts.
Last week you talked about the strength that Eddie Faulkner brings as far as organizing the room and making sure that things are clear. Do you think that played a big role in you guys' success on third downs last week?
Again, I'm not ready to, paint with a broad brush at this juncture. I thought we did what we needed to do last week, and I think the more we proceed, the more the answers to those type questions will become more evident.
Is there any simple explanation for the number of 20-yard runs Najee has had this year? I mean, he has 70 at one over last year. Any particular reason? He's working to get better. We're working to get better. I think it's a reasonable expectation for guys to grow, man, particularly at the early stages of their career. Physical talent is just a component of play at every position. Knowledge, setting up blocks, moving second and third level defenders as you approach the line of scrimmage. I just think that those are some of the nuances of the game and of the position that you don't talk a lot about, but guys legitimately improve in those areas, particularly when young. And he works extremely hard at the game, physically, mentally, and so it's reasonable to expect him to get better.
When you made the change at coordinator, you said you did so to score points more fluidly. Offense obviously put up a lot of yards last week. What's the next step they need to make in order to translate that into points?
I talked about the field positioning component last week being a factor, and that had nothing to do with the offense.
Like when you have two backs splitting about 50-50 like you guys did the last couple of weeks, what challenges do you think two backs present that maybe not that bell cow does for defenses?
From a defensive perspective, it depends. Sometimes when you have a two-back system, there's a bright lines regarding the division of labor. One guy's an inside guy, one guy's an outside guy, and so you're able to balance what one guy does and another guy does. This is a little bit different, to be quite honest with you. Both guys do really kind of everything. And so what it is that you're dealing with the entire playbook, and you're just simply dealing with fresh backs all the time. And so that's challenging from a defensive perspective, certainly. But in most two-back circumstances, there's usually a division of labor in terms of the type of runs that you get that's differing, that's an asset to a defense or a defensive play caller, but not so in this case.
Something we heard a lot from especially a lot of the defensive guys after the game was just how much of a complementary football game it felt between specifically your offense and your defense. How beneficial really is that balance, and how much is that something you guys can build on?
Yeah, I addressed that when I was talking about the run game. We ran the ball effectively. We stop the run. That leads to time of possession, and that leads to that complementary feel. That tees up possession downs. If you're in favorable possession downs, you got a chance to convert more of them. If you're in, third and long, you don't. And so really that complementary component that you asked about, that's just all centered around winning the line of scrimmage on both sides.
You guys did make 4 trips to the red zone and scored just 1 touchdown last week. What has to happen to get in the end zone to convert more of those trips?
More of the same, more work, more execution. We got a week to do something about it, and I'm excited about getting the group in tomorrow and working.
Mike, you've had 2 opportunities to see Michael Walker. Are you happy with what you've seen from Mike, or do you keep your options open?
I like what he's done. I think it's reasonable to expect him to continue to get better in terms of detail and knowing what to do, in terms of how he communicates. And so I'm excited about this week's work, but really appreciative of his efforts to this point. It's a challenge, getting on a moving train, and he's done a nice job of it.
With the injuries in the secondary at safety, what's the DeMonte Casey meant having a guy like that back?
Man, he's been really good and been really steady. He's a good communicator. He's a veteran player. I like the relationship that he has with some of the younger guys. Like, he and Joey Porter have an interesting relationship, big brother, little brother, if you will. He gives Joey a hard time in all the right ways. Joey's appreciative of his communication skills and his veteran approach. And, I think he's just been really solid. Can't say enough about him. I wish he'd have caught 1 or 2 of them balls he got a hand on last week, but we're working.
I know it's come up a couple times.
Jalen's fumble there and Deontay's reaction to that.
I'm sorry?
What did you see in Jalen's fumble and then Deontay's reaction to that afterwards?
We got to take care of the ball. It is our desire, is how we construct victory. And so Jalen's got to do a better job there. Deontay can't let the emotions of the previous down affect his next down. But I'll give him an opportunity to address that with you guys. I'll give him an opportunity to address that with his teammates. I'm not going to add any additional color. I think plays like that are best described and outlined by those involved, and less so by guys like me. I keep my attention on challenging things that await us this week. Schematic preparation for Arizona and the readiness of this group is something that he needs to answer for. And so I'll give him an opportunity to do that. His teammates will give him an opportunity to do that. And I won't provide any color until he does.
Speaking of that play, Mike, the reviewed play, I know you've mentioned it a couple times after games. It evens out home and away, what you see, what you don't see on the Jumbotron. But are you considering putting somebody in the booth directly responsible?
There is.
On the road, too?
There is. You don't always get an opportunity to get a timely look at things, and particularly as it pertains to scoring plays. Oftentimes I proceed with the assumption that if they call it a non-scoring play, then I believe they're not speculating in any way. Obviously, we have automatic replay for scoring plays, and that component, that mechanism, I think if there was any question in their judgment, they probably would have called it a scoring play and allowed the automatic review to happen. And so sometimes when I'm in road stadiums, if I don't get a look or if it's not provided in stadium, I ride with that premise and that knowing because I know how games are officiated.
It had been TA previously, right? Had that job? Coach Austin, it had been him previously?
Yes.
Who is it now?
I'm not going to disclose how we divide our labor up, but rest assured there's somebody that's on that job each and every week, home and away, all season, regular season, preseason, postseason.
Mike, when there's not a replay available, what process do you take then?
What I told you, I assume that if they don't call it a touchdown, I proceed with caution, particularly early in games, and I preserve that timeout and that challenge, and I move on because I know when in doubt, they're usually going to call that a score, and you get the automatic review under those circumstances. And so that's just a prudent, black and white standard approach to deal with circumstances in road game venues where you might not get a timely look at something, but you don't want to waste timeouts or challenges.
You mentioned how KZ works with Porter. You see that a lot with a lot of the older guys working with some of the younger guys. Are the fruits of that seen at this time of year when you've got so many of these young guys actually playing a lot of snaps?
I just think that it's a part of culture, man, that we value. And we work hard to build. and you don't have to be a long-standing Steeler to be a participant in it. Pat Peterson has been awesome. He's new to us, but he's not new to the National Football League, and he's an awesome example and mentor to younger players. Allen Robinson, another example of that, new to us, but not new to the National Football League. I just think that those are just some of the ingredients of good teams. Veterans that's been in this thing know that they're going to need contributions from young people. If we're doing our job, then there's urgency in our young people in terms of learning formally, learning informally, learning from coaches, learning from fellow players, whatever they can do to accelerate the growth process. And so those are just some of the things that are ongoing this time of year as the road gets narrow.
Mike, I think Heinz Ward's been named semifinalist of Pro Football Hall of Fame, 8th straight year. You had him for 5 years. When did you stand out with your time with him?
Man, Heinz is like John Lynch to me. I coach both guys. Stats don't tell their story. Ask the men that play football against them of that generation, their impact on the game and how the game is played, and in some instances how the game is officiated. Heinz was a football player first and a receiver second. And I used to say that to describe him all the time because of just the ridiculous consistency of his toughness. In the passing game, in the running game, running the football after the catch or blocking. He is well deserving of consideration, and I hope it happens for him this time. But I think if I'm going to phrase it succinctly in terms of my experience and exposure, I feel similarly to how I felt about John Lynch. Stats are just a component of the story in terms of the type of player that he was.
Anyone else? All right.
Thanks, guys.
All right, welcome back. Missy Matthews joins us now, and Mike Tomlin, some very high praise, of course, for T.J. Watt, calling him the best defensive player on the planet, and why not? 13.5 sacks, keeps on going, and they certainly need that to continue. But overall, looking forward to this Arizona game. They got a quarterback who could be problematic, so I think this defense has to know that you got to maintain your contained lanes and do not let him get out, because when he's at his best, that's exactly what he does.
Yeah, and they faced him in 2019 down in Arizona, which feels like a lifetime ago because that was pre-COVID. But as you mentioned, TJ Watt just on a tear in his 98th game in Cincinnati. He now has 91 career sacks. Only him and Reggie White have more than 90 sacks in their first 100, and he still has a few more to go.
Some of the other stuff that Mike Tomlin talked about, number one, the replay component, and that he didn't do it, but he did confirm there was someone in the press box, would not name who that person was. It used to be Terrell Austin who was up there doing it, but that's one of those plays that I think when you sit at home, at first you didn't know what to think. Gene Steratore came on and said that he thought if they had challenged, they would have done it, but his point is a good one in that normally in those situations, it's better to call it a score and let them to figure it out afterwards. If you call it incomplete, the call on the field is very important, and it impacts it a lot.
Well, I think it was even worse just because of what happened after. If they would have been able to get in the end zone and score despite that not being called a touchdown, maybe this isn't such a hot topic, but I think because the ball was fumbled and we saw what happened, that is what I think is, causing this to continue to be a topic of conversation. Yeah,
and what happened next was this fumble by Jaylen Warren, and Mike Tomlin said that as far as Deontay Johnson, that he must address the team and eventually the media on what happened on that play, because if it wasn't for that tackle by Connor Haywood right there, Missy, that could have gone the distance, because I don't think there was many people in position to chase him down. Kenny Pickett started after him. A lot of the offensive linemen got up, but he seemed to think that Deontay Johnson was still thinking about the previous play, which you got to let it go at that point.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. He wasn't directly asked about Deontay, but he made sure that he brought it up when asked about Jaylen Warren's fumble. So obviously something that he is very serious about, him addressing the team. I'm sure maybe tomorrow during their team meeting as they start to prepare for the Cardinals. But as you said, also the media, because he's the only one that knows what he was doing when it happened.
All right, we have a lot to get into. In case you missed it, we'll talk about some of the key points Mike Tomlin brought up today in his press conference. We'll also talk about the state of the team right now at 7 wins, 4 losses, very much in contention with back-to-back home games coming up starting Sunday. We'll do that as we continue. We're live right here at the UPMC Rooney Sports Complex on KDK Plus and Steeler Digital platforms, and we're coming back right after this.
touchdown. This stadium is on fire. They're enjoying what they're seeing.
The way the game was called feel different to you?
It's definitely different. It's a new play caller, so it's, you kind of get used to the flow of how he likes to call things, and that's something that we're going to continue to kind of iron out. But felt like every drive we were, having productive drives, moving the ball really well. Some penalty things and a turnover that we wish, you want to take out, that would help us put more points up. But overall, happy with how those guys played.
Kenny, what can you say? Mike Tomlin talks about the weighty downs, the ability for the most part for you guys to come away with first downs and just move the ball.
Yeah, I think that was kind of something we talked about at halftime. I don't think we were great at it in the first half. I thought we really stepped up in the second half. Coach Sully was seeing it really well and what they were calling, putting us in really good positions to be successful. And then we went out there and executed. So that's kind of how it's got to go and how it has to be, moving forward.
Kenny, did you need this as a good taste in your mouth after maybe struggling a couple of weeks to go out there and really put together a good performance on your end?
Yeah, my end and our end. Like I always say, it's the ultimate team game. Especially offensively, you need everybody, all 11 working together, all 11 on the same page, in order to be successful. So, for myself, for the guys in the locker room, we're all really happy that we're coming out of here with the W. Coming back to Hines this weekend, which coming up, which would be awesome to get back home. A lot of positives to take from it.
Did you think you had a touchdown to Johnson?
I thought, I was running down there to go celebrate, and then they didn't obviously, on the road, you don't get to see a replay. They didn't get a job of that, so I'm going to see it on tape and see what happened.
Is this one of the weirder weeks of your pro career, Kenny? Just the frustration in Cleveland, big change Tuesday, and bouncing back to what you guys did today?
I'd say so. It's a lot of adversity, a lot of things going on, moving parts. But like I said, it felt like a short week almost because, when we got the news and how quickly we all had to kind of react to what happened and flush it and move on.
Want to get gear direct from the team? Shop all things black and gold at the official Steelers Pro Shop located at Acrisure Stadium. Get the latest sideline apparel and hats, jerseys of your favorite players, authentic memorabilia, custom gear, and exclusives you can only find here. Don't forget, you aren't game day ready without a terrible towel. The Steelers Pro Shop has everything you need to be part of the legendary Steelers Nation. Come experience the Acrisure Stadium shopping environment or shop online at shop.steelers.com.
I thought it was good. I think it's reasonable to expect it to continue to improve and to be better. Just another week under our belt and another normal week, if there's such a thing. Last week we had Thanksgiving and some of that stuff, and so I'm excited about it. I like where it is. We're going to continue to work to get better, not only in terms of how we communicate, but things that we do logistically leading up to performance, how we construct our day, how we present material, how we ready our group physically for the work.
Mike Tomlin talking about the switch at coordinator position and the fluidity and the communication that comes with it. And that was kind of a, quick week to do it, but the performance seemed to suggest that it was rather smooth, but he wants it to continue, and I think that's something to watch. It felt totally different, Missy. You were down on the field for that. From what we've seen in previous offensive performances, there were no 3 and outs, and it seemed like they got messages in, delivered, and there was a lot of variety in what they did on the offensive side.
I think a lot of the offensive guys, even after the game, said, they felt like they were under a microscope because of what happened. It was last Tuesday morning. A lot of the guys woke up and found out on social media what had happened to Matt Canada. So it was almost a rallying point for them to kind of come together. And as Coach said, it was Thanksgiving week. So the week was different in a way, even though it was a Sunday game and you make that decision on a Tuesday morning. But they definitely rallied together. You could see a lot of communication happening in between plays and series on the sideline as well, not just between the players, but also the different coaches on offense as well. So I think it was a good collaborative effort. Of course, you want to score more points. They're going to need to score more points, but for the first go and to be able to get the win and just, imagine if that touchdown did count or the fumble didn't happen, they would have had more points in that case.
Yeah, they would have been over 23 in the game, and for first time with these two guys calling the plays and formations of the offense, I think that's a pretty good look to start with. Of course, Cincinnati came into this one with one of the worst defenses in terms of statistics in the NFL. They took advantage of it. I also thought, looking to 88 in the middle of the field, this was his second game back, Missy. So the first game back, he only had one target. And, bottom line is there needed to be more. But all of a sudden last week, generally, he was the main man with 11 targets, 9 catches. I think they targeted tight ends 14 times for 12 catches. That's a lot. We hadn't seen that at all in any of the previous games.
Yeah, and you saw a lot of the 3 tight ends out there at the same time as well. Coach said obviously they're available to them at this point, but not having Pat Freiermuth for that extended period of time did not help, especially working the middle of the field. But the first play of the game, they go to Freiermuth on the middle of the field, and the Bengals just weren't able to stop him. So, kudos to the Steelers for attacking that and continuing to get what they needed out of it, but also being able to run the ball, having that balanced offense, and especially even balance between Najee and Jalen. I thought it was good for them, and they need to take the next step forward, and they get a chance to do that on Sunday.
And Mike Tomlin talked about having number 88 back in the fold. This is some of what he had to say.
I did. I saw some things that were encouraging from that perspective, but I also think, Moof's presence and another complete week of work with him had a lot to do with it. Moof did an awesome job in the interior portions of the field, particularly versus zone. And Kenny has a lot of confidence in him and has had a lot of confidence in him. It's good to have him back.
Seems like not only just confidence in Pat Freiermuth, but also Darnell Washington as a guy who's been in there primarily to block, but when he gets a chance and you put him in the open field one-on-one, not many people are going to bring him down unless they go very low, because he is Mount Washington and he's a big physical guy in there. And, a lot of people made the comment that he was holding on that touchdown run. Maybe Cincinnati guy, I don't know, I think it was Wilson, I'm not sure who it was. He could have sold it more, embellished it to try to get a call, but both those guys were kind of interlocked with one another. So that was an interesting play, but I think getting him more involved is also going to be something in the next several weeks we're going to be looking forward to.
Yeah, and I think Connor Hayward, too, should get a lot of credit.
Yep.
We talked about the heads-up play of helping, stop a disastrous situation after the fumble, but also being involved in the passing game, somebody who was part of Kenny Pickett's rookie class. They have that rapport among them. We saw it last year, and being able to see a little bit more of that as well is good to see.
Yeah, but the run game was central to this. I think we saw more play action also. One of the things, if you look back over the first 10 games of this season, there was not a lot of that. There were 9 play action moves in this game by Kenny Pickett. And when you have a run game that's this healthy, and ever since Broderick Jones got in there, it seems no coincidence that this run game has gotten better. 153 more yards, that's 4 straight games over 150. That's hard to do.
Yeah, he's big, he's athletic, and I think, Najee, we had Merrill Hodge on our Extra Point show yesterday and just said how definitive Najee was in his decision-making, no dancing, just going straight forward, and just a monster, angry run game, as we like to say, the physicality that we saw from number 22, which was good to see, and Jalen as well. Obviously, the fumble, you don't want to have that, but not as much as we had seen in the previous games, but with those two guys, they're never going to be, the exact same.
No, but it's good to see that they rely on it. They get those yards. It makes it tough on a defense because now they have to be mindful of the fact that run game could result in another big run, because the Steelers have had some big runs, which is something you don't necessarily think of when Najee Harris, but he's right at the top of the list with some runs over 20 yards this year. So when we come back, we'll go more into that, hear from Mike Tomlin about the run game, and we'll also look at the defensive side of the Steelers right now, because they're playing with a high level of defensive awareness all over the field, and Joey Porter Jr. continues to do really good things. And Nick Herbert, you can't say enough about that guy. He's never in there, but when he's in there, it seems like he makes plays all the time.
He shot out of a cannon on that sack.
But also Jake Browning should have thrown it away. He was out of the box, just get rid of it.
Never apologize for a sack. Never apologize for a win, Paul.
He got steamrolled, and Nick Herbert is playing very well, no doubt, and he's looking for more time, but where do you get it on the outside with those two guys ahead of you? We'll talk more about all this and more as we continue right here live from the UPMC Rooney Sports Complex on the south side of Pittsburgh.
Calling all football enthusiasts. Immerse yourself in the captivating world of the Steelers at the new Steelers Hall of Honor Museum located inside Acrisure Stadium. Explore over 10,000 square feet of history where interactive videos, music, and engaging exhibits await. Feel the thrill of the broadcast booth as you make your mark on a historic Steelers play call. Plus, get up close to the iconic Super Bowl rings, game-worn uniforms, and priceless artifacts. Plan your visit today at Steelers.com/museum.
Big win, divisional win, to be able to bounce back after a loss, just show some resiliency in this group. We could have made a whole bunch of excuses this week. Really proud of us for sticking together and get back on track. Feels good.
You've been in a bunch of games this year where you guys were significantly outgained as a team and winning. Kind of looked like for a long time you were on the other side of that. What do you feel like was the key to kind of just hanging in there and letting the game figure it out by the end?
Rest. I mean, I think we took 21, 22 snaps in the first quarter or in the first half as a defense, and that's huge. Offense was controlling time of possession. Defense, we were able to get off the field. Obviously didn't like that early drive that ended in a score, but being able to smash the run helps a lot, trying to get them one-dimensional. Spent a lot of time on the bench today, and that was awesome as a defense.
Kind of like it that way.
Yes.
How key was it to be able to contain and shut down Mixon the way you guys did?
Huge. That was a point of emphasis. We understand how dominant of a back he can be, especially in the run game and the screen game. And the one at the end, we need to contain. But other than that, I feel like we did a good job on him for the most part today. And that's not just the guys up front, that's the guys in the back end willing and able to come up and make some hits as well.
The interception and then you guys get out and score, that kind of flips the whole game right there.
Trent's been balling. He really has. No one's surprised by his success. He had a phenomenal preseason. A guy that's come in, he's not doing a whole lot of talking. He's trying to learn as much as possible, and he's performing. And credit to him.
With a young quarterback in there, obviously you're looking to disrupt him and make him as uncomfortable as possible. How do you feel about your job in doing that?
Obviously, we're never satisfied, but we're happy for the most part. Defense back end did a good job of making him hold on to the ball a few times, and that is what allowed us to be able to get after him up front. Probably see a couple plays on film that we wish we could have back.
Want to get gear direct from the team? Shop all things black and gold at the official Steelers Pro Shop located at Acrisure Stadium. Get the latest sideline apparel and hats, jerseys of your favorite players, authentic memorabilia, custom gear, and exclusives you can only find here. Don't forget, you aren't game day ready without a terrible towel. The Steelers Pro Shop has everything you need to be part of the legendary Steelers Nation. Come experience the Acrisure Stadium shopping environment or shop online at shop.steelers.com.
Sometimes when you have a two-back system, there's a bright lines regarding the division of labor. One guy's an inside guy, one guy's an outside guy, and so you're able to balance what one guy does and another guy does. This is a little bit different, to be quite honest with you. Both guys do really kind of everything. And so what it is that you're dealing with the entire playbook, and you're just simply dealing with fresh backs all the time. And so that's challenging from a defensive perspective, certainly.
Yeah, it really is, and I think most defenses now are aware of number 30. You know, maybe not at the beginning of the season, but he has earned his stripes, and so you have two backs. Normally, Mike Tomlin seems to be a one-back kind of guy, but when you have this sort of offensive production, it's good to have both. It keeps them fresh also as the year goes on.
Yeah, and as he said, it makes the other opposing defense think a little bit in terms of who's in there and what's happening. But, kudos to the offensive line who's really seemed to come together during the stretch of being able to run the ball well. Sunday marks December football. We know the Steelers historically play really well then, and running the ball is one of the keys that helps them as they get through this last half of the regular season.
And we saw a formation that had both of them on the field, which resulted in a little swing pass, I think, to Jaylen Warren. Do you expect more of that? Kind of a different change of pace to see.
Why not? I mean, the three tight end look that we saw consistently, it wasn't just a few times in that game. If it's working, try new things. I think, this group is really up for it with the change at coordinator position and just knowing what they're capable of. It feels like all year we've been hearing that they're not there yet, and it feels like they are finally taking more steps forward than backwards, and hopefully they can continue to build on that, especially with 2 games at home.
I hearken back to the days of Rocky Bleier and Franco Harris each getting 1,000 yards. That won't happen here just because it's too much. But they did that in 14 games. We're talking about 17 games here. These guys are splitting the difference, and they're both going to get their yards at the end of it. But they can make a push to having very similar numbers at the end of the year.
Yeah, and it's good to see that it's working, the collaborative effort, and obviously with Eddie Faulkner taking over as the interim OC, somebody who knows those two guys well and what works for them, and, you know, collaborating with the offensive line as well.
Steelers, on the other side of it, made life miserable for Joe Mixon and their running game. TJ Watt was in the backfield a lot. He also dropped back into coverage. Mike Tomlin had some high praise for number 90. If you missed it, this is what he had to say.
I mean, let's be honest. Like, TJ is the best defensive player on the planet right now. And he proves that week in and week out with the plays that he delivers us. I get a bird's eye view of it. I see the lengths that people go through to minimize his impact on the game. I know the type of games that we've been in, close ball games, and, you know, how that at times minimizes a guy that plays his position's ability to impact the game. None of those things slow down the train that we all know is coming.
That train never goes off the tracks. 13.5 sacks, that is a co-leadership. He may challenge his own record there, the one that's currently tied with Michael Strahan. I'm not sure if he's going to get there, but boy, he's going to make a good push to it, you would think.
When you look back at that season and kind of at this point of, you know, 12 games in, he was around the same number of sacks. So not that you can predict what's going to happen, but as Coach said, you know, the best defensive player on the planet right now. We just see the impact that he makes, not just on getting after the quarterback, but being able to get the running back and just being a team leader and just one of those guys that you have to know every opposing offensive coordinator, they have TJ Watt. That's somebody you're going to try to do your best at minimizing because his impact is very great. Just go back to the Cleveland game, the first meeting at home, and what he was able to do to get that win.
And his, you have to look at his reaction after that Herbig set. He's like taking him under his wing, and you could tell he was as excited for him as he would being one of his own. So that kid obviously is hanging around number 90, and he should have the same, if by osmosis, be better just because of it. And I think he will be. He's got that same sort of engine. We'll take a break. Come back with more as we cover Mike Tomlin's press conference. It's Tomlin Tuesday right here on KDK Plus and Steeler Digital platforms.
Gear up with game day necessities at the official Steelers Pro Shop located at Acrisure Stadium. Get the latest sideline gear, jerseys, terrible towels, memorabilia, and custom exclusives directly from the team. You can also gear up online at shop.steelers.com.
How tough has this season been on you before today?
It's been tough, man. Obviously battling through some injuries. Never really was healthy since week one, taking that hit into the chest. But handling some adversity, and I got to keep stacking on this one for sure.
What did it do for you and for the offense for Kenny to connect with you on the first play of the game? What kind of tone did that set?
Confidence, man. Connecting on that first play on an explosive, it made everyone help believe. You can see us kind of together today, and it was a great win for us.
That was more energy out there, you think, for you guys? I mean, is there a spark at all with that?
I guess you could say. I think, we just kind of, obviously handled adversity this week as a unit, and a lot of eyes were on us, so we just kind of try to lock in practice, do the extra stuff throughout the week, and try and execute.
Do you feel like you guys were in a rhythm? Do you feel like?
Yeah, we're definitely in a rhythm. Moving the ball up and down the field. I think we had over 400 yards or something like that, so it was a big day for the offense for sure.
It's the first time since 2020 you guys have had over 400 yards in a game. Obviously, you win with points, but does that do anything for you guys? I mean, is that a sense of relief to finally have that kind of crossed off your list?
Yeah, I don't even think we had it on the list, to be honest. Obviously we knew that we had to move the ball more. As an offense, you want to, set up field position for the defense, obviously ending points and stuff. So, obviously it was a big day for us. It felt nice moving the ball at will, and we're just going to continue to move from here and build on it.
Do you think you had the touchdown, Deontay?
Yeah, but it is what it is. I had 3 feet down, but I just got to hold on to the ball all the way down to the ground.
Yeah, did you like the feel and flow and direction of the offense today? What was different?
Like you said, the flow of the game, everything, the calls was just coming in. Everybody was on their job today. Just seeing the energy was different. We was just moving the ball, playing as one, and we was able to get the job done today.
What was done differently schematically? Anything, or is just the execution of it what?
Just execution and everything. There's nothing different about the play call is still the same. It's just us executing the play and making the offensive staff look good.
Did you feel like you were taking more shots down the field and across the middle than maybe other games?
Through us?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure, because we getting certain coverages that they was giving us, and we're just taking advantage of it.
Experience the legacy of the Steelers like never before. Step into the Steelers Hall of Honor Museum at Acrisure Stadium. Explore over 10,000 square feet of Steelers history, rare artifacts, and interactive exhibits. Plan your visit today at Steelers.com/museum.
You know, we can't allow James Conner to do what James does. Know and love and got a lot of respect for James. He is a legitimate tough guy, a big-time competitor, expecting nothing but his absolute best coming back into Pittsburgh because I know him. But aside from his will and intangible things, man, his skill set. When he gets into the secondary, he's tough to deal with. He's a combative runner. He has a nose for the line, the gain, and the goal line. He has his entire career. He's always been a touchdown scorer.
Yeah, he can be a red zone machine, James Conner. Great to see him doing well after everything he's gone through, especially here when in Pittsburgh. But, man, this team generally likes to run the football. Without Kyler Murray, they kind of doubled down on that. And as a team, they have 11 rushing touchdowns. So the Steelers in the red zone have got to get tough against that team.
Yeah, I think, though, too, they really missed when they didn't have Kyler Murray when James Conner went on IR with that knee injury. Not having both of those guys for an offense is not a key, a way to win games. But it will be good to see him back here. I'm sure Steelers fans will, give him more cheers than boos just because of what he meant to the city, both playing for Pitt and the Steelers.
No, he's been one of the constants on their team, and they have a lot of new players, of course. Now, Kyler Murray is back. That's, when I don't know if he's the same quarterback as he was prior to the injury, but he certainly has the wheels, and that's one of the things about him that makes him different than a lot of guys in the league. He has this ability to have design plays, not just scramble, but design plays that they will use in their offense.
And it would be a good week to get, Montravius Adams back to have some more depth at that defensive line and Mika Fitzpatrick.
Keanu Benton's played very well, though. You had to be
all
impressed
of the
with
rookies
him.
really have.
Yeah, the whole class, when you go right down to it, Darnell Washington is 4, Nick Herbig 5, all of them have made. And it's taken a while, especially early on. Broderick Jones didn't get in there. Joey Porter Jr. didn't. Maybe it was best for them to have a few weeks to learn and then get in there. But bottom line is they got a lot of mileage out of that draft class. When we come back, we'll talk about the injuries Mike Tomlin addressed, and that includes a mention of the quarterback, which we didn't expect to hear today. We'll do that when we come back right here on KDK Plus and Steeler Digital platforms.
Want to get gear direct from the team? Shop all things black and gold at the official Steelers Pro Shop located at Acrisure Stadium. Get the latest sideline apparel and hats, jerseys of your favorite players, authentic memorabilia, custom gear, and exclusives you can only find here. Don't forget, you aren't game day ready without a terrible towel. The Steelers Pro Shop has everything you need to be part of the legendary Steelers Nation. Come experience the Acrisure Stadium shopping environment or shop online at shop.steelers.com.
Would you agree that communication's been one of the strengths of this team, especially some of the injuries at inside linebacker?
Yeah, I think we did a great job of communication today, and so just continue to get after it in that way. We just got to continue to communicate. You never get tired of communication because that's the most important thing. Always communicating is the most important thing.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, yes, sir.
What did it mean to see the offense do what they did today?
It's huge. I knew it was going to happen. They had a great game. Kenny balled out, and I'm just excited to see. That was a great first step for them, and I'll just continuing to get better and better. And I know they're going to get even better, over these next couple of weeks. And so, but it was awesome seeing them out there doing their thing.
Did you see them kind of collectively as a unit getting it together during the week and kind of leaning on each other?
Yeah, no doubt. I think they did a good job of coming together. I think just us as a team, we did a good job of coming together throughout the week. And so, I think we saw the fruits of our labor this week. We got the dub, and that's what matters most.
What about the defense?
Yeah, same. I think we did a great job. We had a good week of practice, and there's a lot of ways we can be better. But I think we did a good job. Getting out the field when we needed to, and we just got to continue to desire to get turnovers, continue to desire to make plays, and so we just got to continue to get better week by week.
Guys held their stars to not much out there, not much production from those guys.
Like I said, man, we came in with a game plan from our coaches. We was able to execute them. You talking about from a defense standpoint, from a defensive standpoint, and stuff like that. We just kept playing, man. We played a 60-minute game.
And also a team game.
Yeah, exactly.
Phases too.
Exactly, most definitely.
What does a win like this do for the team morale?
I think, it's November football. You know, when you start stacking them in November, it's big. You know, and stuff like that. And obviously, it's a divisional game. That's a great team out there and stuff like that. And we went at it head-to-head, 60-minute game. And, hey, we was able to come away with a win like we, dig in each week in practice.
This place is juiced up.
The stadium is on fire. They're enjoying what they're seeing.
Quickly, just looking at some health-related things. Got the light on for Mika and Mon Adams this week. Both guys will be participants on some level tomorrow, and then we'll let the amount of participation and the quality of that participation be our guide as we lean in. And Kenny's experiencing some ankle discomfort that might limit him in some way at the early portions of the week.
Well, that was something new, Missy. Didn't expect to hear that, but ankle discomfort. So it doesn't sound like anything serious, but certainly the way he played last week, you need number 8 to be out there this week.
Yeah, and Calvin Austin also dealing with that ankle injury. The participation will be his guide thing. I thought the way he spoke, though, about Mika Fitzpatrick and Montravius Adams was more optimistic in terms of finally seeing them back with the Steelers' defense. Mika's been dealing with that hamstring injury, never went on IR, and Montravius with the ankle, but being able to, it sounds like they're going to actually practice tomorrow. I think that's a really good sign to see. You could just tell Minka is going crazy, having to be in street clothes on the sideline, and really wants to be back in there with his guys.
But it's better to err on the side of caution when it comes to hamstrings. All you have to do is look at Pat Fryermuth's situation. Before we go, 28 semifinalists came out for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Among them, Hines Ward, James Harrison. I think both have very legitimate arguments. But Mike Tomlin said, stats don't tell the story about Hines. Ask the men who played against him. Football player first, a receiver second. 8 times as a semifinalist. I know you got to wait sometimes, but I think he's deserving. But James Harrison also, he himself said he didn't think he was worthy. But if you look at what he did, based on how long it took him to get the chance, you got to look at that seriously.
And I think, using John Lynch as the example of the stats don't tell the story for Hines Ward, somebody he's very close with also spoke volumes of what he thinks in terms of Hines and getting him in there.
Missy, thanks very much. Always appreciate your time. And I have no other way out. Dallas Goedert. That's going to do it for us. Thanks for joining us here. We'll see you again next week as we get set for the game against New England. Have a good day.